We're good.
Started?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. On December 29th, 2012, I got a phone call at about 4 a.m. in the morning. On the other end of the phone was my father. He was screaming and crying, and at that moment, I couldn't really make out what had happened until it really hit me. And at that moment, I felt lost and confused, and I was scared, and I felt alone. But it wasn't until my father sat down with me a couple days later and really talked to me about the passing of my stepmom that I came to accept it. On November 22nd, 1963, Americans everywhere were lost, scared, and some felt completely alone. They lost their father figure. John F. Kennedy was shot and killed in Dallas, Texas. And it was Lyndon B. Johnson, the vice president, who was sworn in as the 36th president of the United States. Days after he took his presidential oath, LBJ addressed a broken nation with many questions with his famous "We Will Continue" speech. Today I will talk to you about the moments after JFK's assassination, the contents of LBJ's speech, and the effect it had on the American people. So, according to Sixth Floor Museum, JFK died at 1 p.m. Shortly after JFK was pronounced dead, Johnson was rushed secretly aboard Air Force One, where he took his presidential oath. He had 132 minutes to gather his thoughts, to gather himself, and to be able to present himself as the President of the United States when Air Force One landed in Andrews Air Force Base. According to a Washington museum called Washingtonia, the 132-minute plane ride and the 1,190-mile journey from Dallas to Washington is one of the Air Force One's most famous flights ever made in history. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy changed the world in a moment, but according to author Robert Carrillo, it was LBJ who was immediately changed in the event. There's archives written by a girl named Ashley Barrett at the University of Baylor that she kind of said that the new president would have to use his words incredibly wisely to earn the trust and the respect of the American people. Which brings me to my next point, LBJ's content. The speech was given on November 29th, 1963 as an address to Congress. According to PBS.org's LBJ opened with the quote, "All I have, I would have given gladly not to be standing here today." He really tried to connect with the people, and he said that he wasn't just new to the scene. He had been on the Capitol Hill for 32 years. This man had been fighting with America, fighting not with America, but for America. And he wanted to make it clear that his most pride was in Americans, and that his most prideful moments was because whatever came America's way, we always rise above. And we rise above like stronger than what we were before it ever even thought about happening. Not only did he want to connect with the people by letting them know that they're stronger than the situation that they're in, he wanted to let them know that as a leader, he needed them, but they needed him too. That it couldn't be done. We couldn't rise without one another. Not only does he ask for the help of all Americans, but he also challenged them. He said not to hesitate, not to pause, not to turn about or linger over this evil moment, but to continue on our course so that we may fulfill the destiny that history has set for us. Our most immediate tasks are here on the Hill. This speech was obviously not a normal speech given by a president. It tugged at the hearts of Americans, which brings me to my last and final point. Though LBJ's speech was very, very uplifting, the moving, the nation was experiencing a time of national mourning. These people were in shock and were coming up with various excuses. Some people thought that it was LBJ that actually set up the killing of President JFK so that he could remain presidency, but his attitude towards the entire thing, I don't think that is what happened. According to Princeton historian Julian Salazar, Johnson believed that in the moments following JFK's assassination, that he needed to link himself to the deceased president, who seemed to become more popular with his death. Even though the president tried this and tried to keep JFK alive, it was still questioned whether or not he could portray the sophistication and the eloquence of JFK, just because a lot of people thought LBJ was kind of stupid. And this 25-minute speech that he delivered, though we shall continue, it had much praise because it attained the language that many people claimed that they didn't know he was capable of making. Though this tragedy happened over 50 years ago, it still holds as one of the most extreme examples of how America rises and how they overcome anything that comes their way.